What is up YouTube, this is Kensei Sensei, and today we're going to be talking about kanji pronunciations and kanji radicals. So in my last lesson, I taught you about the differences between hiragana, katakana, and kanji. But today we're going to go more in depth about kanji, more specifically on the origins of kanji, the different kanji pronunciations, and kanji radicals, which are parts that make up a kanji. So going right in, I'm going to first talk about the origins of kanji, how kanji came to Japan. So in the 1st century, kanji came from China, the Chinese language. It came alongside Buddhism and Confucianism, and during this time in Japan, there was no such written syllabary, but there was a spoken language. So the main challenge was, how are we going to use kanji in order to write in Japanese? Because kanji already had its own meaning and also a Chinese pronunciation associated with it. What the Japanese did was they basically renamed the kanji using the Japanese term that corresponds to that kanji's meaning. So for example, this kanji right here means water. And water in Japanese is mizu. But during this time, this kanji would be read differently. It will be read in Chinese. But what they did was that they renamed this kanji as mizu, or the Japanese way of saying water. But they also adopted the original Chinese pronunciation to its syllabary, meaning this kanji can also be read as sui. So this kanji has two pronunciations, sui and mizu. Now don't get confused because not every kanji has two pronunciations. Some may have one and some may have more than two. So to recap, there are two main pronunciations that you need to know. One was the pronunciations that originated from Chinese, and two, the pronunciations that originated from Japanese. Now this is very important to know because this directly correlates to Onyomi and Kunyomi pronunciations. Onyomi pronunciations are the pronunciations that originated from Chinese, whereas Kuyomi are the pronunciations that originated from the Japanese language. Now, one thing you need to know about Onyomi pronunciations is that if you read a kanji by itself with its Onyomi pronunciation, it will make no sense. What I mean by this, for example, is if I want to ask for water, you cannot address water using its Onyomi pronunciation, sui. You cannot say sui wo kudasai. It would make no sense. You need to use the Kunyomi pronunciation in order to make sense. You have to ask omizu wo kudasai. So, one thing about Onyomi pronunciations is that one cannot understand what you're talking about if you're using the Onyomi pronunciation by itself. As for Kunyomi, if you address a kanji using its Kunyomi pronunciation, people would understand what you're talking about. And that's because that pronunciation was originally from the Japanese language. Now, one may ask, why do we even use Onyomi if you cannot read it without making any sense? And that's because Onyomi pronunciations are usually used when we're reading compound kanji. Compound kanji are basically kanji characters that are attached together in order to make one term. For example, Shinkansen, which means bullet train, or gakko, which means school. And as you can see, multiple kanji can be grouped together in order to make one term. And usually these kanji are read in its Onyomi pronunciations. There are exceptions to this, and I'll get to it. Now as for Kunyomi, like I said before, people will understand what you're really talking about if you read a kanji using its Kunyomi pronunciation. However, you need to also note that there is something called Okurigana. Okurigana is basically hiragana characters that follow a kanji character. Now, when you're studying kanji, you might notice that a pronunciation is written in hiragana, and there are a number of hiragana characters that are written in brackets. These hiragana characters are called okurigana. Okurigana is basically characters that follow a kanji and is used for conjugations. Conjugation is basically a step process that you take in order to alter a term's meaning. So for example, in English, if I were to change go to going, which is the present participle, you're doing conjugation. Same within Japanese. When we conjugate in Japanese, we are altering the okurigana. So to give you guys an example, the word taberu has beru as okurigana that follows the kanji ta. So saying ta by itself makes no sense. But with the okurigana taberu, then you're saying to eat or I eat. And notice if I change this term taberu to tabeta, it becomes past tense. I ate. Or for example, if I change this to tabetai, that means I want to eat. So as you can see, by altering the okurigana, we can alter the meaning of the whole term. We'll get to conjugations in later lessons. Now, going back to Onyomi pronunciations and about compound kanji. Like I said earlier, usually we would read kanji in its Onyomi pronunciation if it is part of a compound kanji. But there are exceptions to this. For example, in some terms, you would read the first kanji in its Onyomi pronunciation and its second kanji as its Kunyomi pronunciations. Or the other way around, we can read the first one in Kunyomi and then the second kanji in Onyomi. Now these exceptions are called Jubakoyomi and Yutoyomi. You don't need to know these terms, but it is important to note that not every compound kanji are read in Onyomi pronunciations. Some have a mixture of them. Now that you know what Onyomi and Kunyomi are, let's move on into kanji radicals. Kanji radicals are basically parts that make up a single kanji character. Now you may have noted. Now, what you need to understand is that kanji characters are not written randomly. They were not made randomly. Kanji characters consist of smaller parts which all have a specific meaning. For example, if I give you this kanji here, this means to rest. And on the left side, we have one part, and the right side, we have another part. The left side is something we call a ninben. This is a kanji radical, and this kanji radical represents humans or humanity. Whereas the right side is a radical that represents trees. Now you can visualize a person resting under a tree. So as you can see, sometimes radicals may illustrate a general meaning which corresponds to the kanji that it constructs. Now, why is it important to know what kanji radicals are? It's because kanji radicals have its own meaning and they usually relate to the kanji that it constructs. So when you're memorizing kanji, it is very beneficial if you remember what these kanji radicals represent. So if you know what a ninben is, if you know that represents humans, and it comes up to a new kanji that you've never seen before, at least you know that it has something to do with humans or the person or the body perhaps. And as you learn more and more kanji, you're going to encounter complicated kanji characters. But the thing is, these complicated kanji characters can be broken down into kanji radicals that you've already seen before. So it makes it much easier to memorize if you know your kanji radicals. So that's it for today's lesson. So if you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below and I'll get to you as soon as possible. And also make sure to like this video and subscribe so that we can get as many Japanese learners to watch this video. Also, if you want to participate in my lessons, make sure to download Amino and access Japanese School Amino. That's where I teach weekly Japanese lessons for free. Also, if you just want to hang out with other Japanese learners or Japanese natives, make sure to join our Discord server. All the links are down below. But until then, mata ne!